diabetes, heart disease, cancer, things like Alzheimer's.
We've got to ask ourselves what we need to do to make that happen. And that's what this entire program was designed to do, to become the most healthy and most exuberant, most vibrant that you can possibly be.
Yeah, and that's a huge point. Is really we've learned that all we need to do is give. Our cells are looking for something specific. All we need to do is give them what they're looking
That's
for.
Right.
And now with these advances in this research, in these studies, we're beginning to learn what the body is looking for, what these cells are looking
exactly.
for.
Especially since they cracked the genome in the year 2000. Back then, they said, boy, this is going to spell a lot. And I thought, man, will I have long enough to live to benefit from that? But boy, it really accelerated the rate of research and what they were finding out. And I mean, really, and that's almost fundamentally the way it went when quantum physics was really understood. It's accelerated the rate of our understanding when they, not just how that gene functions, but how foods function with the genes. I mean, and now comes the industry of epigenetics and putting full control of your genetic destiny in your hands. Epigenetics is the study of how your environment, what you put in your mouth, what you breathe in, what you see, what you think, what you feel, what you dream about, how all of that affects your genetic structure and how your genetic structure then affects who you are and what your reality is. So, I mean, this is a really fascinating thing that we've come across in science ever since they've discovered how to read the genetic structure and how to manipulate it and how to identify it. It's been since then that they've discovered that DNA has a plasticity, that you can actually change the structure and content of your DNA.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing with working with you that's hit me the most is the fact that we've learned that we can change our DNA.
Unbelievable.
It used to be common knowledge, you're born with the genes
That's
that you're
it.
born with. There's
That's
nothing you
it.
can do about it. That's the way life is. You're going to be, maybe if you have cancer in the history of your family, then you're going to be more susceptible to cancer.
Get your breast cut off. Your grandma had it.
That's right, because that's the genes that you were given. But now we're learning that we can change our DNA.
You change that. You can change that expression. Certainly your genetic expression. I mean, if you've got genetic predisposition from heredity, you're going to lean in a direction. But the reason that genetic expression was allowed to express itself in your genetic history, in your ancestors, was because they lived a life that allowed, their system to get to a condition that finally manifested itself in that direction. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to let it happen. You just give your DNA what it's supposed to have, and all of that leaning in a certain way can go away. And quite frankly, we learn it does go away. Just as the Bible points out, the sins of the father is vested upon the sons and the grandsons, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point, that can be changed. In other words, if you can influence your genetic expression and your sons can do the same and their sons can do the same, you can eventually change genetic predisposition. That's the plasticity of all of this. The Irish drunks that ended up with alcoholism and dying in their 40s and giving my ancestors premature heart disease, all of that activity through generations can be changed. Enough healthy people living in the right way can change that genetic predisposition in the progeny that comes after them. That's the influence that we're looking at here. That's the master regulatory influence of our ability to control these areas of our biochemistry.
And good to hammer that home. Getting down to the cellular level, this is what our cells expect of us. This is what we need to give them. It's completely within our control to give our cells what they need. And in doing so, we're talking about completely eliminating diabetes, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and a myriad of other diseases.
But indeed, it truly is there. I mean, the DNA is the code. If anybody asks me what I consider health to be, can I define the quality of good health? Good health is the application of the DNA program. If we would obey the code written in our DNA, then our cells would perform according to that code. It's us that absconds with that code. We're the ones that mess it up. We're the ones that refuse to apply ourselves to what the cells ask of us. we get a sense then of ourselves as a whole human being, but then we also get the sense that we are no longer able to, with disregard, do anything that we care to do to ourselves. We now must take a look at what we require to generate that quality of health, that application of the proper DNA code.